Hey, RecLess listeners, this is Tom here, letting you know that this episode of RecLess is brought to you by Rec Technologies, the recreation management system built for parks and rec in an AI-powered world. Rec knows the realities of the job: registration day chaos, weather cancellations, wait lists, spreadsheets, air quality, and 100 other manual tasks competing for your team's time. That's why Rec is building technology that understands how parks and recreation actually works. Rec's AI is built directly into the platform to help take on the repetitive work, from rescheduling and refunds to helping parents book the best camps. The Rec platform is built for the recreation industry, so your team can spend more time serving your community. And Rec is just getting started. Come see what they're building next at NRPA, where Rec will join OpenAI and the Glenview Park District team for a live look at practical AI for parks and rec. You can also meet the team at the RecLess Social. Learn more at recreation.ai.
Hey guys, it's Hannah. With over 100 episodes of RecLess, we have had some real gems of interviews, and we didn't want you guys to miss this one. Enjoy this episode from Season 1, Episode 5, Roslyn Johnson. So with that, on with the show. Welcome to RecLess, a podcast making people smarter and more knowledgeable about parks and recreation. Your hosts are Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venniro, three career-long friends from around the country, bringing their own unique and sometimes entertaining perspectives with a surprise guest each episode. This is RecLess.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of RecLess. This is actually now our 5th episode. I am your host today, Tom Venniro, and as with us, as always, Jay Tryon and Shane Mize. Hey, guys. How's it going today?
What's up, gang?
Going on?
How's everybody doing?
I am great. It's Friday, and it's been a busy week as usual, but looking forward to the weekend.
Cool. So, last time we had Chris Bass, and the conversation towards the end, and I hope our listeners got to check that out, was awesome. Super enjoyable. The whole conversation was, but at the end, we got a little bit personal. Shane asked a great question about downtime, and so we started talking about my Atlanta Braves, but more importantly about wrestling, and we had a lot of fun with that, right? And so today, the theme, and we're not going to have a theme for every show, but I do like themes. And so today's theme is not only about getting to know the profession and our guests on a professional level, but I also want to kind of go to that personal side of things. The three of us, we get to talk a lot now because of this show, but I know we go sometimes during a normal year where it's, maybe 3 or 4 times a year where we're talking in a group setting like this, not counting conference. But I do feel like I know a little bit about you guys, but not everything. Really quick, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to ask you guys a question. So what I know about you guys is a couple things I'll share with the group. I know that Shane is a Seattle Seahawks fan and Jay is a Buffalo Bills fan. I know that I'm a Patriots fan. So for at least a portion of the last 20 years, the Patriots have tormented both of you.
Oh, brutal.
And on the downside of things there, I had to bring that up. But on the plus side, Jay, we're 5 for 5 with Buffalo Bills references.
I was going to say, you brought it up, and
Did.
you were the
I
one
did.
that's against bringing it up.
So those
I'm
are a
off the
couple
hook
things.
today.
Yes, you are. You also know that I love Disney. I know that Jay and I like to try a whole lot of different foods. I like to cook. I like to dabble in all this. Shane will indulge some of that when we're out together. But typically what I know of Shane is he'd be happy with a steak and some eggs every day and a couple monsters, right?
Every day. That's all I need.
So that's a little bit that we know about each other. And what I'd like to just do to start is ask you guys, just like Chris, you asked him, what does he do to get back to him? Similar along those lines, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. What was something that you really loved or can think of fondly of your childhood that we wouldn't know about you?
It's a good question. You gonna go first, Jay, or you want me to?
If you're ready, go for it.
Not really, but we put our guests on the spot all the time, so we'll do this as well. I'm a highly sensitive person. I'm an introverted person. I like routines. I live in those spaces. That's what makes my life comforting. My brain just goes all the time. And so things, when I think back on my youth, the things that I liked were going to a grandparent's house, both sets of grandparents, and just eating the food that I knew that they would make there, walking the trails, or reading the books or hearing the stories that I knew that they would have, going into the attic for one of them, and they'd have that attic set up where we could play, and another one would have golf clubs set up and you could go hack around in the backyard. And I think of all my memories as a child, my most fondest memories are the times that I spent with grandparents in a spot where you can just authentically be you. You know, you can be vulnerable, that they're loving you 100% for who you are. Grandparents have that special connection, right? Like they were harder on your parents, so they can be easier on you, right? Like that whole saying, you can either raise your kids or you can raise your grandkids. You know, that was an experience for me that I got to enjoy my grandparents and enjoy the warmth and the comfort that those homes provided me. We didn't have to go anywhere. We didn't have to do anything. It just felt like a safe place where I could be me and relax. And as a kid, that was always in their head, always thinking, always, you know, trying to figure out a better way to do something, to go to a respite and just be able to be, it's what I seek now. You know, y'all talk about, I go to places that are pretty secluded for vacations, or I'll come home and batten down the doors and just hang out with Hannah. It's probably what started me on that journey of being able to just enjoy downtime and quiet time at the rate that I do and that I probably need to.
I can definitely relate to that as someone that grew up very close to my mom's mom, my grandmother, which is where a lot of my passion for food came from. My mom's side of the family is Greek, and she was a phenomenal Greek cook. We have a lot of family recipes that have been kind of pushed down to not only, you know, to my mom, but to my kids and to us and my brothers and my siblings, that we eat Greek food all holidays, or a lot of different Greek recipes throughout the holidays. But I also, you know, my passion for this field started when I was young, because I was very fortunate. My parents, I grew up on a street that was a dead end to a park. So I literally am like the definition of a park and rec kid, that I had a playground less than 100 feet from my house, like from the day I was born. So I was always at the park. And that's so, like, you go to my parents' house, we're the third house from the end is a playground. And then my backyard actually backs up to a little league. So I have been involved in baseball in some capacity my entire life, not just playing, because I played t-ball, I played little league, but I also then, my first job ever was working the baseball diamonds. So I did the grounds crew. I was an umpire. So I literally was like enthralled with baseball from a player and then actually working it all through high school, through college. I did the grounds crew for probably 6 or 7 years. I was an umpire, started when as young as I could. Like, I think I was probably 12 years old being an umpire for 8 and 9-year-olds. And that was like the start you could do it. And then I did it to the age group that I could, as far as I could go up. So always been involved in just being outdoors at parks, and especially baseball. But then also I grew up in a neighborhood that literally, as you guys probably did, you know, you don't come home until the lights come on. We're on our bikes. We're in the neighborhood. We're just kind of like, who's going to whose house today? We're playing street hockey. We're playing football, just in random areas and alleys. And like, that was my childhood. Literally, our neighborhood was just probably 20 different kids my age, 1 year up, 1 year down. And every other day after school, there was scheduled pickup football games, pickup hockey games, pickup baseball games, kickball. We created our own games playing bat ball, which is kind of like a hybrid of baseball and kickball. This is what we did. You know, it's just, we didn't really look to go anywhere else than just the neighborhood for our entertainment, and we're always active. And it was, you know, I loved it. And to this day, those were some of my closest friends that I grew up with. But at the same time, like, I push that for my kids to have this opportunity to go to your local park or neighborhood friend's house to, like, just play outdoors, be creative, you know, get away from the technology and just have fun.
Wow, this is like a therapy session. Got to do this more often. I can relate completely with both of you. So I won't, and you guys said it so well, so I won't go into all of that. I'll just go with just a simple kind of odd fact that people probably wouldn't know, that I don't talk about a lot. So in addition to all those experiences relating with grandparents and Jay, that whole childhood, you know, growing up in your backyard and in the areas right around your house, that sounds very similar to my upbringing too. But my father, he at one point bought a store and he opened a sports card show or shop. So that was a part of my life for probably from when I was maybe 6 or 7 to about 12 or 13. And we traveled all over the place, all over this region anyway, to Canada, anywhere in Western New York, Buffalo, Syracuse area, and went to those card shows on a regular basis. You know how they used to be in the malls.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a kind of a cool thing as a kid, to have that little bit of a inside access to it, and a unique part of my childhood. Met a lot of people that way.
A lot of nostalgia wrapped up in buying a pack of cards and hoping you get the one that everyone's got an envy for.
Yeah. And now I've learned, my brother, he got back into it. So, as being 3 years apart, we grew up pretty close. And he was kind of like the second in command. I was always just the little guy that was there. If they asked me how much for the card, I was like, I don't know, Joe.
Look at the Beckett.
How much are we selling this card?
Look at the Beckett guide.
Yeah. I'll look at the guide. But I found out that adults have gotten into the trading card business in a major way recently.
It's a huge industry again.
Yeah.
And Noah's into it a little bit, but like I'll see him watch like a YouTube video of someone buying a box and they're like looking for that one card that has like a $5,000 value or whatever it is. And like, it's a huge thing now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Live breaks. So
I didn't know that. I need to go look at my old cards, see if I got any money sitting in those boxes.
And the cards have come a long way. It used to just be like, obviously a picture of the player. Now they're like sewing pieces of a jersey into the cards, and they're like 3D raised cards that like you hold them a certain way and it looks a certain angle. And then it's wild.
That's cool. I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, good stuff. So we could probably talk about this for a while. What happened before the call was Shane and I hopped on, and I keep telling these guys here, I'm like, hey, cannot give away your guest. It was not even 30 seconds into me talking that I said my guest's name to Shane. Shane knows, Jay doesn't. And Jay, this is you. The game's on you because Shane clearly is already in the know. So our guest is, it's on me. My mistake. So our guest, absolute home run hitter, regular presenter, including a keynote in Shenzhen, China, at one of their first Rec and Tourism conferences. Our guest holds a senior executives in state and local government certification from Harvard. Our guest is a Academy member and also sits on the board of directors for the Academy, as well as a committee chair or co-chair for the Justice, Equity, and Diversity and Inclusion Committee for the Academy. They also served as a past NRPA board of directors, an NRPA directors school and graduate institute instructor, serve as the chair of Parks and Rec Magazine Advisory Committee, a co-organizer of the TEDx College Park Series. Our guest is the current Maryland Recreation and Park Association president. So the positions that our guest has either served or is currently serving include serving Baltimore City, Richmond, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, and Baltimore County. Currently serves as the director of the City of Annapolis Department of Recreation and Parks. Jay, do you have an idea?
It is the one and only Roslyn, I believe.
That's right.
You got it. Roslyn.
Hey, what's up?
Hey guys, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you all.
Hello. Very excited. Obviously, I do not get to talk to you or see you as much as I would like. So this is going to be great.
This is awesome. 3 of my favorite Rec and Parks people all on one screen. This is like an awesome day. Shane, by the way, do you have Monster stock, Shane?
Yes. Well, not stock in Monsters. I have Monsters stocked in my house. I don't have stock in Monsters.
You should get Monster stock. They are one of the few companies. Guess how much debt they have as a company?
Oh, I've cleared it myself.
0.
Yeah.
They deal in all cash. So if you're looking for a company to invest in, Monster is the thing to invest in. 0 debt. They pay everything in cash. They have cash reserves. Just an awesome company.
Look at Roz coming in and dropping some finance for us as well.
Well, based on what I know about Shane and other people who like Monster, when I'm done with this, I'm going to go buy some stocks.
Absolutely.
They're not going out of business.
No.
I don't think Shane needs to just buy stock. They need to just like have Shane be a sponsor about how much he drinks it and how much he talks about it.
Yeah.
He would make them more money.
That's right. Brand ambassador.
All right, so I'm going to kick us off here. So, Roslyn, thanks for being a good sport about letting me try to get one over on Jay as I cover up my own little mistake and blemish earlier. I appreciate that.
That was a good time.
And also, thank you for being a good sport about that was one of the longer intros we had. I did not expect to go on that tangent with that question, but I apparently got the creative, or I should say the brain juices working in Jay and Shane. So if everybody can go back to the introduction of where Roslyn has served in her career, you're going to notice that there was a lot of big cities or big areas in there and some smaller populations, right? So currently you're serving a population in Annapolis of what's the population there, Roz?
40,000. And that's adding about 200 extra residents, but about 40,000.
All right. So in contrast to the largest, what would the largest have been of the ones that you have served?
980,000.
Okay. And which one was that?
That was Prince George's County now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's what my question is. Can you give the listeners an insight of that? I think there's a lot of us who are looking to go through our career and go one way or another. Go to a larger agency, a smaller agency, or vice versa, back and forth. You've done that, and I'd like to hear your perspective on the pros and cons of each, and what's taken you through your journey.
Okay, good question. Wow. So a large city, I thought large cities were where it was at because I'd only been in relatively large cities. Baltimore City, 600,000, Richmond, Virginia, 200,000, but the capital of Virginia, Prince George's County, 980,000, Baltimore County, 840,000, and Annapolis, 40,000. So it's awesome being in large counties. It's awesome because of the resources you have. When I was in Prince George's County, we were about 300 million, not including our capital. So, I mean, I could just say, hey, I need an extra 2 million to do this program that I want to kick off and try. And it was no big deal. Similarly, in Baltimore County, which is, very similar to Prince George's County population-wise, not too far off. When I first got there, our budget was 26 million. So I was able to successfully advocate to get a larger budget. I'm in Annapolis now. My budget is 5 million. I used to joke and say, oh, I make $1 million decisions every day. Well, I can make 5 of those a year now. So, I better wait till the end of the year to make those decisions. But when you look at it, I think the national average is about $90 to $105 per resident as far as funding is concerned on recreation and parks. So when I was in Baltimore County, our funding was about $16 a resident. So I say, the price of 2 cups of coffee, particularly the way Starbucks is, or 2 large monsters in Shane language. And when I was in Prince George's County, our budget was about $314 per resident. And now I'm in Annapolis and we're at about $125 per resident. So we're really well funded. Parks and Recreation Department, we still have funding pitfalls. But my day-to-day and my quality of life is very different. It is much better being in a small town. And people will say, oh, well, it's less responsibility, but she's in a smaller district. Yeah, it's the sweet spot. When you can walk out and you see Miss Jenkins or Mr. Smith, and they're like, oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, I did such and such workout today. There's one gentleman who parks in the handicap spots, which are right outside my office because I'm actually in one of our rec centers. And, to see him with his walker every day. And the first day I saw him, he was looking a little frail and a little weak, like he might fall over. And I was like, are you okay, sir? Do you need help? He's like, no, I think I just overdid it working out. And, I kind of watched him while walking slowly get into the car. But now I see him every day and I'm like, hey, you didn't overdo it today, did you? So, I mean, it's really the personal touch that you get to see. When I was in the larger jurisdictions, I didn't really see the personal touch unless I went to the programs. But the faces of the people we serve is really what I get to see. And so that's a difference working in the smaller jurisdictions, and everyone knows you and everyone's related. So I can't run my mouth about people as much as I did in the larger jurisdictions, because I'm probably talking about someone's aunt, uncle, or their teacher or something. But it's different, but different is not always a bad thing.
Isn't Annapolis like this incredible spot where it's in a great climate? Doesn't it have a really incredible port? Obviously, you host the Navy Academy there, and so you have a lot of, I would hope, rule following people that are that care about the quality of life of everybody and kind of get service. Is Is it one of the more unique towns that you've ever either worked for, obviously, but even come in contact with in any real capacity, right?
It is. It's also the capital of Maryland. So we house the governor. We house the delegates. We house the majority of the elected officials. We have 17 miles of coastline, though, which is unusual. We have a historic downtown, which is like Main Street. But we have a lot of African American history here as well, as far as some of our beaches are concerned. So it is very unique. And people say, in Annapolis, you need 5 votes to be able to cross the street. And I used to joke and be like, you don't need 5 votes. You do. You need 5 votes to walk across the street in Annapolis. So, but it's an amazing city. My staff, I've had as many as 1,200 in Prince George's County full-time staff. Yeah, I got 28 full-time staff, which is amazing because you get to know your staff, you know their names, you know their families, you know what they're doing. So it's a lot more of a slower pace, but it also allows me to be involved on the other levels, on the state and the national level as well. So I'm juggling way less and I can do put a lot more interest in things.
Let me ask a follow-up before anybody else hops on. So we, as you know, Roslyn, we have a group. Tom, Jay, and I are a part of a group of folks that we all stay pretty close, and we connect through Facebook, and we hop on Zooms from time to time, although we wish we could do it more. And Kevin Whitty from Seattle was talking about wanting to do some sort of leadership audit. We were talking about leadership and what leadership looks like. Does leadership in your mind change from a 1,200 person director to a 28 staff director? Like, do you see your leadership style changing, or do you implement it different, but the leadership style is the same, or do you come in and you're just authentically who you are and they have to fold into that? How does that work? Because it's such a huge transition from almost a figurehead department head to almost someone that's rallying the troops every day amongst the troops. Like, it feels like at least where leadership happens is in a different spot, but is your leadership different?
Good question. No, it's the same. I only know how to be one person, and that's me. And so I'm fortunate that I've never had to be someone that I'm not or pretend I'm someone that I'm not. If you talk to any of my team members that I've worked with, they will say, yeah, that's her. And they'll describe me no matter what, pretty much the same wherever it is. I have those tough conversations with my staff. I want to grow them. I want to support them. We send people to director school. We're going to send people to supervisory management school. So it's the same. It might take us a little bit longer. There might be a year in between that we send people. But, here, my team wasn't really involved on the state or national level. So it's getting them involved. And, when my team went to the state conference, we sent, I think we sent 7 people, which for us is a lot. And they were like, whoa, this is, amazing. And, just to interact with people. And we're sending 7, including myself, to national conference. So it's about getting your staff exposure and getting them connected to people. So no, leadership is pretty much the same, regardless of, where I am, and just, supporting my staff, because my staff, they're the ones who are doing the work. If, you really want to know the truth, and they're knocking it out the park.
Yeah. I think this topic of different size agencies, I've always been so intrigued by this, because like we talk to people all the time that obviously, Shane mentioned our group, and you have myself and Tom and Shane and, Katie Keller and Kevin Whitty and Sarah Sandquist. And like all of us obviously are doing the same thing. We're all serving, but we're doing it in different parts of the country. And some of us have 30,000 residents. I'm in Mecklenburg County. We have over 1 million. So like, we do kind of cross paths on like how things are different, but from a leadership style, like it's a great topic on like, how is it different? When I was in Indian Trail, we had 5 full-time staff, obviously like very different setup than what I have in Mecklenburg County. But obviously like the goals are the same with what we're doing from a programming perspective, from awareness to engagement, camps, events, everything. Now you mentioned like you have a little more flexibility to be involved in other capacities, but you've always done that, prior to whatever role you've been in, whether it's board of directors, whether it's director school, whether it's TEDx, like there's always been a drive that you've had to be engaged in outside involvement. And how has that been a focus, and how have you been able to balance that like workload and that, because obviously it's all extracurricular, but it's benefiting you, it's benefiting your agency, because you can bring things back to you that you're going to learn from those other folks. But how have you found that balance? Because I think, Tom and I and Shane, we've sat in different roles, And it can be a hard balance to like be able to maintain what you need from your day to day, but also like wanting to further your involvement in other capacities.
Yeah, so excellent question, Jay. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir because you all are super involved as well. So you know how it is to balance. But I've gotten to every place where I've been and where I am because I don't say no. And that's my rule. Like the one time I was going to say no, I remember they called me up and they asked me to teach at Graduate Institute. First of all, I didn't even know what director school was, let alone Graduate Institute. So I was like, oh, wow, so thank you so much. Oh, I'm so flattered. Okay, let me think about it. I'll let you know. And I was like, I hung up the phone. I said, I'm not doing that. Graduate Institute? Like, that sounds like a lot of work. And it was right before Labor Day. I was telling my boss about it. I was like, oh yeah, like they called me and asked me to, teach at Graduate Institute. And I was like, I'm not doing that. He's like, call him back and tell him yes. And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, tell him yes. My boss, I loved him. And, I don't really challenge. Well, I mean, I will challenge my bosses, but not on something like that. He was like direct. And I was like, but it's a lot of work. I'm going to be gone for a week. And he's like, no, I support you. Tell him yes. And I mean, talk about a group. It was everyone who Graduate Institute was everyone who had gone through director school. And so they were like experts. And I remember the first class, and I had, done my work and I had prepped and everything. But the first class, they almost ate me alive. I had Cindy White, Simon from Pigeon Forge. I mean, it was an amazing group of people. And I was like, whoa. So I had to pull an all-nighter. It was like being back in college. I pulled an all-nighter. I was doing my research and getting my PowerPoints and everything together. But you do what you have to do. And it just all works out in the end. And sometimes we're in the middle of it. And Tom, you know this too, when, we were doing TEDx College Park and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I bit off more than I can chew on this one. I don't have time to do it. But you have amazing people around you who are amazing at what they do. And they force you to be better. And you guys are three of the people who force other people to be better and to not be kind of the weak link. So our families, we're fortunate that our families understand, that work comes first and we just make it happen. And it always, always works out. I have to remind myself when I'm in the midst of things, it's always going to work out. So, sometimes it's sleepless nights, but it's ebbs and flows. We lie and tell ourselves, oh, if we can get to summer, it'll slow down. Well, fall's really busy now too, right? And, we've been through COVID, and COVID, I'm thinking if you can make it through COVID, you can make it through anything. I mean, that was a time where all of us, our decisions that we made could kill somebody. And that was like a tough time mentally. You're like, okay, can we go back out there? Can we give out food? Can we open our centers back up? What does it look like? And, all the leaders and all the people who pitched in and, we were fortunate in our department, we didn't lose anyone. And I was out there right with my team and I was coming home after we did food distribution. I remember we shut down on Friday, March 13th. On Monday, March 16th, we served our first meal. And they were like, people are like, you're serving me? Yes, because schools are closed. And who's the second largest provider of meals outside of schools? It's Rec and Park. So if they're shut down, we're moving up. We're the first largest provider. So figuring out safely. So when we gave out food, I was like, oh my gosh, if I can make it to next week, that means I didn't get COVID. And I was like, if I'm thinking that, my staff are too. So we need to, figure out some ways to work smarter. But you just do what you have to do. It's a love of our profession. And we're thieves and we're thieves who share. We will steal a good idea in a second. And who we're stealing it from will give us the template and the lessons learned. So, it's when people around the country, getting involved just makes it so much better and so much easier.
Roslyn, I love what you said there. All of it I can relate to, and I'm sure Jay and Shane and many of our listeners can. I had the opportunity to be a part of a session that Jay's been a part of too. So it's kind of a traveling session. Different people actually have been giving it, and we talked about it, I think, a few of our episodes ago. But either way, the basis of this was your career network or your career development. So I think it's called Career Development Boot Camp. Does that sound right, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool how it has evolved because it started probably 6 or 7 years ago at an NRPA conference, and then it's been evolved and changed a little bit and added with different people.
Yeah, so it goes all to these different states, and it's really cool to be a part of that. And part of it, so this is kind of transition. You talked about us, like you were preaching to the choir that we will We will do what we have to do to get it done. And I'm with you. It's hard for me to ever say no. I don't know that I have. And I think it's served me well. I think some people would call us crazy, but I think it's served me well. So on the flip side of that, now I come to an agency and my people see me doing what I'm doing. They see the involvement, and I want them to buy in, and I want them to see how we benefit, how I benefit, what it's done for my career. So part of that session is creating spaces for others, right? So that's a whole nother part, is you get to a point in your career development where now you're at a point where I can go ahead and say, I'm going to create this space for someone else, make a pathway for them so that they can hopefully get a little bit of the same experience. You just mentioned that you're in a newer organization, Annapolis, and you said that you're sending so many to your state conference and so many to the national conference. How did you create that path? Because I can speak firsthand from speaking or from representing a smaller agency that our budgets aren't exactly the largest. You already alluded to that. And the education budget, I've grown that exponentially over time, but even so, it's still difficult, right? And I'm proud to say that at our state level this past year, we sent almost all of our full-time staff, including our first ever park staff, to go. So, and I've seen other agencies send park staff, but that's never been something that we've done. And to have that happen has been special. And the opportunity and the experience that they had was great. So what's your secret to going into an agency and saying, we may not have sent anybody to national before, and now we're sending 7, for example?
I'm glad you asked that question, because I never really thought about it till you asked it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a creature of habit. I do the same thing. So when I got to Baltimore County, we had talked about professionalizing our department. And that, I hate that term, because when you say professionalizing the department, it implies that the people you work with aren't professionals. And that's not what it means at all. It just means that you're going to start to look at things on a state and national and local level. And so I've talked about CAPA accreditation. I've talked about, our staff getting experiences outside of the department. Many of my staff here have only worked here in the city of Annapolis for the Recreation and Parks Department here. So getting them access. So when I was in Baltimore County, we had a training budget. I want to say maybe it was $2,000. And I was like, well, what are we going to do with $2,000? So we started by sending people to our state conference. International. We sent 7 people. I had 13 on my list, and my boss was like, you can only send half of them. I was like, okay, well, half of them, that's 7. She's like, no, it's 6. And I was like, well, it's 6.5. And so we round up to 7. And she's like, no, 6. And that's because Baltimore City was often in the newspaper for the number of people that they sent to a conference. When I first got to Annapolis, same thing. I was like, look, we need to get our staff access. And so we had some budget left. We had some money left over in our budgets. We were able to send them. But when I came in right at the beginning of budget time, and I was like, we need training money. Our staff need to be trained. And so figuring that out. And then, next year, I know it's going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to send 6 people, maybe. Staff are excited about where we're going to be. I'm like, you have to present. So get ready to present. And so looking for ways that it makes sense. And you always have to have that audit eye, especially in a small town or even in a large town, to justify why you're sending these people. But the people I'm sending to national, they need to be there because it's going to affect their job. And at the end of the day, it's going to affect the services that we deliver to the community that we serve. So I think the proof is in the pudding. And then, you have your backup. When I was in Prince George's County, we had the Innovate Parks and Rec Task Force. And I attended the Innovation Lab in Boston. And I was like, oh, we're recreating the Innovation Lab. We're going to do all the stops we did for the Innovation Lab that NRPA gave. And so I flew 30 people to Boston. Of course, when we got back, the auditor started calling because, there were people who were upset. But a ticket to Boston is $99 round trip. We went up and back the same day. So there was no hotel. When the auditor saw how much money we spent for what we did, we met with the MIT Physics Lab. We met with the Mayor's Urban Mechanics Lab. We had a full day. We had the schedule roll out. We had a survey. We had the people we met with. We had the outcomes. We toured Boston Commons, which was the first park in the whole entire country. So we did all of that. We were able to articulate it. We had our goals. We had our metrics. By the time we finished with the auditor, she was like, well, how were you able to do all that with so little money? It's like, okay, thank you. Have a great day. So it's also justifying what you do. So people don't think, because it sounds like, oh, we flew to Boston for the day and we, drove all over and then we came back. No, we learned a lot. And here's how it's going to benefit Prince George's County at the time. So bringing back that information and people seeing the difference and seeing the investment in themselves, it's also a morale booster too. So being able to articulate those things, I think, is helpful.
Roz, I got a question for you. And it goes along the lines of some of the things you just recently highlighted. And I think I've always known this, but it became maybe more clear just to even talking about it. You kind of glazed over some of these large departments that you ran and almost made it sound like it was a very easy thing to do. But anyone that's in our industry knows that you dealt with a lot of adversity and a lot of political concern, especially in some pretty volatile areas. I mean, Baltimore in and of itself can be a pretty volatile political climate as well. And so you worked in the county of Baltimore, the city of Baltimore, some large metro areas as well. And I think you have faced probably as much adversity as anyone I can think of in our industry at times. You had that thrown against you, right? And I know when I come up against adversity, I have quotes, or phrases or things I lean into to kind of, get my head right again. What is a quote or a series of quotes or phrases that you say to yourself when it gets really tough, when you're kind of looking inward for a minute, maybe even feeling bad about yourself, and you're like, I got to snap out of this. What mental gymnastics do you use to get yourself back on track to be the leader those departments are expecting?
That's a good question. So it is tough. There is a lot of adversity. There have been instances where I've actually been fired and they're like, yeah, but we need you to work 2 more months. And it's like, okay. And then you're like, this is some BS. Like, you're firing me, but you want me to work 2 more months. You want me to show up and you want me to do well. But I only have one way to work, and that's to give my best. So a couple of things help and guide me. One is well-behaved women rarely make history. And I'm trying to make history. So, sometimes I'm a flip a table. And so no weapon formed against me shall prosper. This too shall pass. My mama didn't raise no fool. And my mother always said, if you stand for nothing, you fall for everything. So, and I remember that I'm Fred Johnson's daughter too. And my father didn't take any crap. And my father, whenever he said I was just as nice as I could be, I'm like, oh, Dad, you cursed him out. So, I can go there if I need to with the best of them. But, at the end of the day, I remember when I was in Baltimore City and we had to terminate all the custodians. We went to privatize custodians. And so we were working with a company. And I mean, the centers were not at all clean to the standard that they had been cleaned with our custodians that we had. And I remember I said to one of the vendors, these dirty ass rec centers. I had gone through a lot of iterations with him, and he called the council president on me and said I cursed at him. And I was like, what? I cursed it? Like, so then it's not about his cleaning or his lack thereof and the waste of the taxpayers' dollars, but it's about the fact that I cursed at him. And so since then, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not cursing at work anymore because nobody's going to make that the issue. So I also learned from my mistakes too. And I realized I don't know everything. And so sometimes I have to bounce things off of people, but I'm fortunate that I also have a support network too of people that I can call and say, look, here's what happened. And they're like, no, you're not crazy. Don't back down. That doesn't make sense. No, you stand up for that. So, that's what kind of guides me. And then if you do what's right, then, sometimes people aren't going to like it and they aren't going to be happy about it. But I never sacrifice my morals or my values. And that's my line in the sand.
That's amazing. If I didn't curse, I'd have a quiet office, I'm afraid.
Roslyn, you were talking about, I want to back up a little bit. You're talking about professional development and going to trainings and classes. And it's cool. I actually send a survey out to our staff every year, and it's completely anonymous. There's only 5 questions. And one of the questions is, if leadership can support you in one role in addition to your job, what would you like from us? And like the overwhelming response is always more training or ability to go to a conference or certifications. Those are like the top 3 if you prioritize. And I'm assuming you've seen similar results if you're talking to staff about like what they're looking for. And for those that obviously like have a budget for it, that's easy. If you do not have a budget that is large enough for the amount of staff that you have, and obviously there's ways around different things, but is there a focus that you've been able to implement so that all the staff can get some sort of piece of the pie, knowing that not everyone can go to a state conference or a national conference?
Yeah, so that's the importance of these local, state, and national networks, is that if you can't afford training, go on a trip to visit another jurisdiction, because the jurisdiction will do the training for you, because you know, who doesn't want to highlight what they do, what they have, and all those things. And when you drive on the van that you have to another location with staff, that's team building, that's bonding, that's FaceTime with people they otherwise wouldn't have FaceTime with. And then you tour that facility together, you bounce ideas off of each other and all those other things. So there's always opportunities for training, I think. Sometimes you have to create your own. In jurisdictions where I've been, I will do the cultural competency training because I do it around the country. So it's like, okay, let me, at least train my staff. And, it's a little awkward because it's like, okay, your director's given the training on cultural competency, but they also get to see your values that you have and where you're placing your emphasis. And, they can ask those tough questions. I love to have people challenge me. I don't like bobbleheads, those people who just say yes to everything, because we're going to mess up royally if we have a whole bunch of bobbleheads. I need those people who are saying, no, Roslyn, that doesn't make sense. That's not a good idea. Let me tell you why. So I think creating those opportunities for them to have buy-in to. I got here a week before I had to present budget at the council. So, well, actually, that's not true. 2 weeks before I had to present the budget to the council. And so I'm like, well, does anybody have the budget? Like, we don't even have a budget person in our department. So I pulled together all of my top people. And I was like, okay, where's the budget? And so we were in there doing it together. And I was like, wait a minute, you all never saw these goals? And they're like, no. And I'm like, so do you have buy-in with these goals? They're like, well, they're not really goals for us. And so I'm like, no, we're going to create the goals. Okay, I'm new, so I have a honeymoon period. We're going to create these goals. So my team, we created the goals together. So there's buy-in, there's training around that. And they're like, we never thought about it that way. So I think it's important. One of the first things I do too is have Enneagram training with my staff, and it's emotional intelligence. And that's where they learn about themselves. And it's about $350 a person. So there is an investment, and I, will roll it through over different fiscal years, but it says we're investing in you. One, you get like a 42-page report about yourself. Who doesn't want to learn about themselves? And then you get an hour with an executive coach just to talk about you confidentially, like your strengths, your weaknesses, your pitfalls, all those sorts of things. And that helps boost morale too. And that's probably one of my biggest investments in the staff, especially in a small department. I've done it in large departments too. But it says, hey, I value you. Hey, I want you to learn about yourself. And then we come back and share. And everyone's completely vulnerable. And so, I'm sharing what my Enneagram number is. They're sharing what theirs are. And then we're seeing, oh my gosh, no wonder that program sucked that we put together. We had all, pick an Enneagram number on it. We didn't have any diversity as far as Enneagram or the way people think or, emotional intelligence. So I think you have to create the opportunities, because staff do want training and a certificate. Like, people are building their portfolio. Just make a certificate. If you do a training or if you visit a site, give them a certificate to put in their portfolio as well.
The Enneagram thing's great. I don't know if you guys have done that. Our city did something similar. I'm a 5 wing 4, and I've thought about any future jobs I apply for, just adding that to the resume. Like, this is me. Now you know how I'm going to react in bad situations and good situations. It's a very interesting thing. Roslyn, have you ever heard of the working genius concept?
No.
So we're all kind of nerds for the working genius. It talks about the linear workflow and how you fit into that linear workflow. And it's not Enneagram necessarily. It's not the 16 personalities, and all those are great. And it's not your color wheel and what animal you are. All those are a little bit more about who you are as a person. This is about who you are in the work capacity. And the idea is there are 6 stages of workflow, and they're linear. And it's wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enabling, and tenacity. And the concept that the working genius people have just determined is that you have two that you find joy in, that it's natural for you, and they bring passion and joy into your life when you do those two stages. You have two that are competencies that you can do for periods of time. You don't find any joy in them, and you probably don't get a lot of frustration out of them. And then you have two that will drain you. Now, once again, none of this has anything to do with if you're good at it. You could be really good at one of these tasks, but you don't find any joy in it. And doing those for large stretches of a time really drains you. And so working genius is a pretty interesting thing. It's about 2 years old. Us three plus Michael Bedenstein, John Stutzman, and Neil are all nerded out about it. And we've even talked about doing some sort of presentation where each of us take one phase of that linear workflow process. I'm a WI. Jay is a DT.
I was wondering if you were going to remember.
Is it DT?
No, DG.
DG. And then
No.
And Tom has T. What's your other one, Tom? GT. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting to find out who you are. And when you look at phases of the workflow, like I'm working on a master plan. I was telling Tom before he hopped on, I'm in way ET work. I'm downstream into this master plan. And anyone that
Next week, you guys are presenting at council, right?
Yeah. And I am done with it. I have gone from wanting to have the most innovative master plan in the country to hating everything associated with the phrase master plan. And I couldn't figure out why that was happening to me. And we hired a new assistant director about 8 months ago, a gal named Kelsey Hayden. She's amazing. I brag about her on this podcast a lot. But she came in and was like, I think you're just not in your working genius. And she sent me this episode 1 podcast, and I listened to it and I was like, oh yeah, like I love creating things. And as they start to go downstream, I get bored with them really quick. And so that may be something for your team. It's really quite affordable. It's $25 for a test, and you get a team map and some other things and an admin. We actually sent our admin to Denton. They did a 1 week training where we're going to be working on rolling out Working Genius more. But I just thought we hadn't talked about it yet, which is crazy for us because we talk about it a lot.
I was going to say the same thing when Roz was talking about the Enneagram. I was like, how have we not brought up Working Genius yet? Because when we first dove into this a year ago, 6 months ago, it was like nonstop texting about it. And Roz, I would highly recommend it. It's awesome. It makes you think differently from a work perspective. The other ones are all personality. This is not personality. It literally and it solved so many questions, or maybe not questions, but it gave us a lot of feedback from like Shane and I. Like we're opposite in our path. Like I am a very, very strong D, and he is definitely not close to a D, but that's why him and I, we butt heads, but it's in a positive, fun way because I understand it now and he understands it now. So it's really cool. And I had my team do it. And I think a lot of staff that have done it that we're friends with have had their staff do it too. And it maybe has opened up eyes on who should get a certain task based on what brings them joy.
I'm all over it. Don't worry. That sounds perfect too, because I think, we might have some of the wrong people on the wrong task, Jay. So you hit the nail on the head. I love that. So I'm getting ready to be a genius on Working Genius.
There you go.
Do the research.
There you go. Tom took it and it gave him a new perspective on people, because also you'll see once you get into it, there's a responder level and a disruptor level, and some of your staff are just responders. They need to be pointed in a direction, and some people are like, I can see around these corners. And so when you're one person and you look over and you see someone not responding, you can look at them as lazy, or you can be like, man, this person isn't motivated, when really they're just waiting to be engaged next. And Jay and I had been old ladying ourselves in this industry for 15 years. We argued all the time about everything. I could never come up with anything without Jay giving me 17 reasons why it wasn't going to work, and we would argue about it. And now it's so clear. There are times where I'm like, Jay, I don't need your D right now. I'm not trying to discern anything. I just want to talk about this out loud, get it out of my head. It's rattling around in there. And then there are times that I can come to him like, okay, I'm ready for you to tell me all the reasons that this isn't going to work. And in those capacities, it's really healthy when you can speak that language and say, right now, I don't, because my wife's an ET. She's very downstream and I'm very upstream. And there are times that she wants to tell me something. She don't want me to solve any problems. And there are times I want to tell her something and I don't want her to show us how we implement it. I just want to say, we got to figure out what we're going to do on this vacation. You know what I mean? I need a break or whatever it is. So the Working Genius concept has been very interesting.
Oh, I love that. I'm excited.
Yeah, and Roz, we need to get back on track and get back to Roz. We could probably do a whole show on this, but I would just recommend something we didn't mention, and we sound like a bunch of nerds now because when I listen to the first couple, and that's what I'm getting at. There's a podcast, Roz, and that makes it so much easier, I think, than sometimes there's a book as well. So you can go both. Some people learn better, visually or audibly, and so the podcast was great, and it really puts things in perspective. And they all talk in these letters. I'm a D, I'm a I, and I was like, why can't you just say the full word? And now I'm listening to Shane and Jay talk about all of it in terms of letters, but it certainly does not only help you understand yourself, but the people around you. And that's a big theme of it is you can't, seek to understand, not to be understood. So it's great. I recommend it. We've been doing something that's kind of, I don't want to say rapid fire necessarily, but we're all going to go around and ask you some questions about something about yourself in this case. And so I'll start, and then you can give us an answer as long or as short as you'd like. And then we're just going to go around the horn a couple times. So you took this trip, and this was last year, correct?
What, the Africa trip or the Greece?
The Greece trip was the one that I remember following on Facebook, but go ahead. Tell us about just a little bit about both those. Those are trips that I don't think a lot of people will even think to take, let alone get a chance to do. And so, tell us about your experiences, what that meant to you, and getting a break from, the grind, and why you chose to do that.
So it's interesting we're talking about personality testing. So I'd always wanted to go to Africa. And so I was like, oh, I want to go on a safari in Africa. So I didn't do a lot of research. I'm not a researcher. Shane is like the best person to probably go on a trip with because he has a backup plan to the backup plan. He knows the weather. He's planned for everything with his Enneagram number 5. I'm a 7. Sevens like to have fun. So I'm like, show me the fun. Where is it? I'm going to love this safari. So I went with one of my friends, and, he and I have been friends for forever, and literally just platonic friends. So we decided, I was like, hey, I want to go to Africa. Do you want to go? He's a real estate agent, so he can always go. He's like, yeah. He's like, where do you want to go? I was like, the Serengeti, where is it? And he's like, it's in Tanzania or it's in Kenya. I was like, oh, okay, let's go to Tanzania. So then I'm like, but I want to end up at the beach. And he's like, oh, okay. I said, oh, what about Seychelles? He's like, that's too far north. It's going to be a long flight. He's like, what about Zanzibar? I was like, oh, there's a club in DC called Zanzibar. And I kind of like that club. So yeah, Tanzania and Zanzibar, that's where we're going. And I didn't really do any research. And so he looked at the trip and did the little bit of research. So we're like, okay, well, how long? I was like, well, 10, 13 days. I don't know. So we did 13 days. And I was like, and I want to see all the animals. So we saw this trip, and he had done the research, and one of them was to stay in a tent. And I was like, He's like, I know you don't want to stay in a tent. No, I don't do tents. Barbara Tulipaine, the previous executive director of NRPA, and I was like, oh, I don't camp, I glamp. And she's like, wait, what is glamping? I'm like, it's glamorous camping. And that's the extent of what I'll do. So we looked at the reviews, and everything was good. And we went to the Serengeti. We drove down to a crater. The first night we got there, Africa, for me, it's a place. It's my roots. It's where I'm from. My ancestors are from, and so it's almost like going back home. And I hadn't done a lot of research, but it's very different. I'll say, and it's humbling. And as Americans, we just are used to having everything at our fingertips. The ADA that we have, the accessibility, we're just used to it, and everyone benefits from accessibility. Not so much in other countries. So first night I couldn't sleep because I'm taking a shower. We had a 18-hour plane ride or whatever. I'm in the shower and I'm like, did I just get electrocuted? And, I'm touching the soap again. And I'm like, wait. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm delirious. And I'm like, soap doesn't conduct electricity. Why am I getting electrocuted? Like, I'm getting shocked every time I touch the soap. Well, so apparently there's suicide showers in Africa where the wires from the hot water heater touches the water. And so the water becomes electrified. So needless to say, I don't know how you stop a shower mid-shower. Like, do you finish washing? Do you just wash important parts? Like, what do you do? But you got to get out of there because you're getting electrocuted. And it's like 3:00 in the morning. So Needless to say, we had accommodations. We had paid for like $200 to $300 a night hotels, and we ended up in like $45 a night hotels in Africa. So that was super interesting. We went on multiple safaris before we went to the Serengeti. And so the Serengeti is like the mother of the safaris. And when you go on a safari, if you can see what they call the Big Five, it's like a big deal if you see the Big Five. So of course, I didn't do my research. So I'm like, okay, well, what do you mean the Big Five? What's the Big Five? So he's telling me the Big Five. And I'm like, okay. So we're looking, we had already seen a leopard. So that was exciting. A leopard was in the tree. And then we're, going through the Serengeti, and we're in a Jeep, a stand-up Jeep, where the top can open up. And we turn left. We see the cheetah, and then we turn left. And I'm like, oh, where are we? And he's like, oh, this is where you're staying. And I was like, no, there are tents here. Like, where's the hotel? And he's like, no, this is where we're staying for 2 nights. So I can say I slept in a tent in the middle of the Serengeti. And just so you know, like, my first question was, where are your guns? And they're like, oh, no, we don't have guns because there are no fences around this tent encampment. And I'm like, well, we just left like the cheetah down the road and we just saw lions. And so how's all that work out? And they're like, oh, the animals will come to the camp. And I'm like, no. Okay, so do you have guns? They're like, oh, no, we would not shoot animals. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I'm like, well, what if an animal comes to our tent at night? And they're like, oh, just bang on the tent wall. And I'm like, do we have guns in our tent? He's like, no, there are no guns. So needless to say, I spent 2 nights. I didn't say I slept 2 nights in the Serengeti, but I spent 2 nights in the Serengeti. And it was probably the most amazing and phenomenal trip ever. When you see lions in their habitat, and we're like riding all around the Serengeti looking for the animals, trying to catch them. And so at one point we came upon 5 lionesses, and they're chilling because they had just eaten. And they're on like at the bottom of the rocks, just trying to cool down. And then they jump up to the top of the rocks. And it's really just me and my tour guide and the driver. And so I'm like standing up, I'm getting these pictures, and I'm standing up in the Jeep, and I'm maybe 8 feet from these lions who had just eaten. And then they're up top above me. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of dangerous. I feel like they could just do one leap and jump into this, into the Jeep. And so I get all these amazing pictures, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm telling the drivers, and they're like breathing a sigh of relief. And I'm like, were you all scared? And they were like, oh yes, it was pretty close. And remember, nobody has guns. And I just got caught up in the moment. And I'm like, well, why didn't you all say anything? And they're like, well, we wanted you to get good pictures. So it was a trip of a lifetime. Our hydraulic fluid in our Jeep was leaking. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, we have to go get some hydraulic fluid. And again, I don't know what hydraulic fluid is for. So I'm like, let me Google it, and I have to wait until I can get service. Well, apparently that's for shifting gears, like the transmission and the brakes. So I'm like, okay, we're going 10,000 feet into the crater, and we're driving down like these dirt roads. It's starting to rain. And at one point I literally, and I'm not exaggerating, I really was like, this is the stupidest thing you've ever done. You didn't do your research, and like, you're getting ready to die, and they're not going to be able to find your body because you're going to slide down this slope, and they're not going to be able to get to you. But we made it out safely. And then we had to go to like some mechanics. We got stuck on the side of the road and had to drive to a mechanic shop, which, everything was an experience. But it really made me appreciate what we have here. And, you look at the average income. They told us the average person makes $85 a month. $85 a month. So, it makes me appreciate any Africans who've been able to come to America to live. Because if you're making $85 a month, how do you save up for visas? How do you save up for an airplane ticket? And I mean, just so very happy. They're the happiest people. The customer service was excellent. And I'm like, if you're making $85 a month, here comes these, Americans and people from all over the world who have all this money, and you're being nice to us. Like, how is that even possible with everything that you have going on? And a lot of them will work 12 months, go back home for a month to visit their family, or work 3 weeks and then go back home for 2 days to visit their family. But they're centered around making a living, and the things that they have to do and the people they have to serve. It was just humbling. It was amazing. And I realized that as Americans, we just have way too much.
Crazy experience.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I also followed your path for your trip, so I'm just going to steer the other direction. What was your favorite island that you visited in Greece?
Oh my gosh, my favorite island, hands down, was Santorini.
Okay.
So again, I don't really plan stuff. I really went to Greece because I wanted to take this flying dress picture. So my friends are like, "You're going all the way to Greece to take a picture in a red dress?" Yes, I am, because that is like my bucket list. I saw this picture. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to Greece to go do a flying dress." But Santorini, the number of churches they have, and then just the white buildings with the blue tops on the churches, the turquoise tops. It was just phenomenal. It was just amazing. Greece was, I mean, it was breathtaking. It was the food, Jay. Talk about the food. I'm trying to come to your house for holidays, because if you all are cooking Greek food, I want in on that. The food was delicious. The beaches were amazing. The wine, just everything, the views. I mean, you talk about reducing, both in the Serengeti and in Greece, reducing your blood pressure just by forest bathing. You're at the beach, the blue waters, or you're looking at the mountains, just the countryside, just everything. So it was amazing. People wise though, best island was Crete, because the people were just so nice, so amazing. And we went to Mykonos, Crete, Athens, and Santorini. So
awesome.
But nightlife, Athens was where it was at. So yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, my rapid fire question has nothing to do with Africa or Greece. I am very interested to know, if you weren't a park and rec professional, if this industry didn't exist, what do you think you would be doing?
Wow. I never thought about that. Nothing. No, I'd be doing something helping people. Whatever I could do helping people. I taught before I did this, so it would be something helping people and serving people.
Okay. A couple quick fun ones. This will be real rapid fire. Favorite food?
Crabs.
Crabs. How prepared? How?
Blue crabs, steamed Maryland way, with some hot butter, melted salted butter. Yes.
Okay. Blue crabs, do you have to take them out of the shell, or is that the kind you eat as is?
Oh, grasshopper. Let me just tell you. No, blue crabs, you have to take them out of the shell. It's a whole thing. In Maryland, it's like cultural, and you talk to people and you eat crabs with people and you drink. Well, most people drink beer. I don't drink beer, but you eat crabs and corn on the cob, and it's butter and involved in Old Bay seasoning, and it's a thing.
All right. Well, I need to come and do that.
Oh, you let me know. Yes.
Favorite guilty pleasure TV show or movie?
Ratchet TV. Any reality TV show where there's some fights and some ratchetness, yes, I'm all in.
What about a book that you recommend to folks?
It depends on what you're looking for. I like the first 90 Days. Leadership and Self-Deception is a good one. I like 50 Shades of Grey. I read it. I carried the book for forever. I like Cast. And Gal by Ruthie Bolton is a binge read. It's like 400-page book, and if it's so good, you can't put it down.
I think
last one,
yeah.
We talk every year about how much we love getting together at conference, and we've kind of like always had stories about different conferences. Is there one conference that when you look back and you're like, oh, that was my favorite conference for whatever reason? Is there one like city or year that you think of?
Wow. Atlanta was really nice. I love Baltimore. I love them all because they're in different places and they're also different and special for different reasons. Vegas, though. Vegas was by far the best one. And I'll share because Pacquiao and Mayweather were fighting the Saturday before the conference. So I did a pre-conference tour Saturday during the day. I had tickets to see Mayweather and Pacquiao fight that night. Awesome. Sunday, we were all at the in the casinos, and then we had a packed conference. We won our 6th gold medal for Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission in Vegas, and then my birthday was at Thursday, the last day of the conference. I had girlfriends fly in. I was exhausted by that time, but then we went to the Grand Canyon. We did the ice bar. We did the Caesars buffet. We had the best time ever, and I went home on Sunday. So Vegas, hands down.
That's cool. It sounds like quite the trip.
Yes.
Someone, I think that was either the last or one of the few episodes we had. Janet Bartnick talked about how she could make a little bit more out of each one of those conferences she attends, and you certainly did. That might top it for everybody. So Roslyn, thank you so much for joining us. I enjoyed every bit of this, and especially just learning more about you on the personal level too. So thank you so much. We're so thrilled to have you, and we hope you have a good weekend.
This was great.
Awesome. Thank you all too. You guys are awesome. This was a lot of fun. So thank you for the opportunity. And I can't wait to see you all at conference in Dallas.
Yes, we'll see you soon.
See you.
All right, Roslyn. Take
Take care.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
That was great. Great job, Tom.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Another awesome guest.
We had a what do you want to call a briefing conversation, which I don't know if you all do that. I mean, we're only 5 episodes in, and it's funny, your different guests are going to be different about it, right? So Chris Nunes was my first guest, and he was like, yeah, whatever, let's just go with it. And Roslyn was the same way, but I just wanted to talk to her. That conversation, I said, you have 5 to 10 minutes. Our conversation turned into about 45 minutes, and it was phenomenal. It was just like today, but totally different things we talked about, and just someone you could talk to for hours and learn so much from and about.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people listening to the podcast, a lot of people in our industry could learn from the adversity she's dealt with. I don't think there's much in her repertoire she hasn't dealt with in her time in her career. I've always thought very highly of her and how she's always seemed to handle it with grace and professionalism in class. I've always been very impressed by her.
And I think through all the adversity too, which is more impressive, is just like the positive attitude that she's taken from each one. It's like, nothing has affected it long term. It's actually grown and shown her to be a stronger person, and it's going to make her a better professional, which is awesome.
Yeah.
She's an open book. I love that. And Shane, I don't know if I'm the one keeping score here, but I feel like this is the 3rd episode in a row that you got the question of the day. And this time it was based on just being a perfect question for the guest. When you ask about the adversity and some of the things that she says and quotes she lives by, I was blown away with what she came back and said. I hope that everybody gets to listen to, if anything, that segment of this podcast, rattling them off. Yeah. And they were all phenomenal.
It's like she had them locked and loaded, which is authentic to the question, right? I don't want you to have something you have to go find. What are those 1, 2, 3 quotes that we all have them, when it gets tough, what do you think about in your head? And man, she had 4 or 5 that she obviously keeps close to her heart, and she was able to recite them without any hesitation. And that's how she answered it honestly. But I thought all those were great.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've coughed at times. I tried to mute myself, but I'm, for the listeners here, if you heard me coughing earlier, I'm sorry. I'm battling a summer cold. So this is what it is.
All right, guys. I think that will do it for this week. Thank you all for joining us on another episode of RecLess, and we'll see you next time.
Great job, Tom.
Awesome. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Here at RecLess, we love to give back to the community that we're so passionate about. We do that by providing scholarships to professionals to attend conferences they may not otherwise be able to attend. That's where you come in, sponsorships. If you are interested in a sponsorship, we'd love to connect with you. So this spot could be yours. Contact us today at recklesspod@gmail.com or check us out at recklesspod.com for more details.
This episode of RecLess wouldn't have been possible without the support of our agencies and our better halves, Melissa Salatino, Lindsay Tryon, and our executive producer, Hannah Mize. We also want to thank our director of hashtags and swag, Rooney Taylor, and our team of junior producers, Luke, James, Elizabeth, Grant, and Harper. Stay up to date on all things RecLess by following all of our social media, and like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast to ensure you don't miss an episode. See you next time on RecLess.